say 6. 5 creepy stories today. And I just want to say happy October, everybody. It is finally fall. Living next to Satan has finally ended. It's getting to that time of year where everybody's decorating for the holidays and prepping, and it's just all around. People are in a little bit of a better mood. And I'm glad that I have time to record today because October is my birthday month, so on the weekends, I have a lot of plans every single weekend of this month. I canceled my plans today because honestly, I just wanted to record and relax. So that's what I'm gonna do. Are you ready to jump into these creepy stories? Are you ready to get into the Halloween mood? I know I am, so I'm gonna jump right in. This first story is called Corpse-like man in a wheelchair riding around late at night. I'm gonna brush the mic for some dramatic effect. This story starts out. I live in a decent lower middle class neighborhood in a small, friendly, everyone knows everyone, very safe, small town. All the neighborhoods have sidewalks and good lighting, and most sidewalks connect to our small downtown, so it's not unusual to see people walking during the day or even at night in my area. This is usually people walking their dogs or families out for a jog. It's never anything strange. That is until a few weeks ago. About 2 a.m. a few weeks ago, my senior dog was whining to get out. I get up and let her out, and my husband wakes up and decides to join me in taking her out. She takes forever, so we sat down in our garage and smoked a cigarette. We're talking, and suddenly I get this bad gut feeling of dread and anxiety. I brush it off because I have a history of mental illness and continue our conversation. Just as I'm about to tell my husband I have a weird feeling, we see a rapidly approaching light coming down the street. We assume it's a bicycle headlight, but it seems to be going way too fast to be a bicycle. We both look at the road to see what it is, and it's a man in an electric wheelchair going ungodly fast for a wheelchair down the road. He was probably going the speed of a car. He has shock white hair and was very small, almost like a child. He appeared shriveled and corpse-like and would slowly turn his head side to side, never looking at the road as he drove. Imagine the crypt keeper with white hair, and you got this guy. My husband and I both did a what the fuck in unison, and were creeped out, so we called out to our dog and went inside. Good move. We kept trying to rationalize what we saw, but it just seemed so strange. Several weeks passed, and I would still get very nervous going outside after dark, but had mostly put the man out of my mind until a few nights ago. I was outside again. I keep thinking of the crypt keeper in a wheelchair, which is hilarious. I was outside again with my husband this night, coming in late from being out, and we decided to have a smoke before we went inside. As we were sitting there, I got that weird gut feeling again, and I told my husband about it, and that I was scared we'll see the corpse man again. As soon as the words escaped my lips, I looked up, and there's the corpse man rolling down the street at high speed. I literally screamed. I was so terrified. Every time he passes, it's almost like an evil energy. He scares the shit out of me. He slowly turned his head to look at us, and he was definitely corpse-like. He continued speeding off, but instead of looking at the road, he just kept his head turned and kept driving. I asked my neighbor, who has lived here since childhood, if she knew who he was. She said experience, and I hope not to, as I now refuse to go out after dark. Bum bum bum. This is honestly hilarious. Scary, yes, but hilarious. It almost sounds like a prank, like somebody got a prosthetic or a mannequin crypt keeper, put it in an electric wheelchair, and is like controlling it from a remote control in the background somewhere. Because that's what it sounds like. But for the sake of the story, if this really is a corpse-like old man speeding down the street, that is odd. I will give you that. I'll give you that. Definitely a smart move to stay away just in case, especially if you're getting those bad vibes. On to story 2. Okay, so the story is called Had a Weird Experience That Basically Broke Me Mentally for a Bit. I'm currently staying in some friend's garage made into a temporary apartment until I get back on my feet. Right off the bat of moving in, I got weird vibes in it. For the first couple of weeks, I kept having intense nightmares that were partially sleep paralysis, where something is in the garage with me, hiding in the corners watching me, then slithering around and peeking at me from below the side of my bed, or something coming up behind me and grabbing me. One specific window in the garage creeps me out the most. It's not covered with anything, so if anyone was outside, they could look in, and I can't see out due to the lights I have on inside. My cat will often sit in the window and scratch at it as if she's trying to get to something outside, of which is weird for her because she's freaked out by going outside and is a big, wimpy, indoor pampered baby. So the only conclusion I have is that there's something out there and she's trying to get it. One day, a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to music on my headphones. I had my laptop open, had nothing but the main screen on it. I was dancing around, vibing to the music, when I suddenly heard a weird, deep sound somewhere in the garage with me when the song I had on was ending, and I could slightly hear my surroundings again. I turned around, and on my laptop, the screen was suddenly jumbled and glitchy looking, and then started showing / flashing these weird symbols that did not look familiar at all. I ripped my headphones off, and this terrifying sound was playing from my laptop, like this deep, demonic voice that sounded like it was speaking backwards. It was the scariest thing I've ever heard in my life, and I love spooky stuff. But this was like the type of evil voice that I've only heard in my absolute worst nightmares. It resembled the song Masked Ball from the Eyes Wide Shut soundtrack, but way deeper and more evil and creepy sounding. I'm not familiar with that song. The strange glitchy symbols kept flashing and changing on the screen while this weird backwards voice was speaking through my laptop. I tried to shut it off or hit escape, but nothing was working. So finally I slammed it shut, and immediately I had a really bad panic attack. I ran inside to my friend's house and told them what happened while I had an absolute meltdown. I made them go back into the garage with me and inspect the laptop and the plugins. Everything we could try to explain why it did that. We could not find an answer. What's even weirder is that we all noticed that my laptop was actually on mute from when I muted it a couple days earlier, making it even more strange that I was hearing this coming from my laptop speakers. It should not have been possible. I still have no idea what happened or why. I'd love to chalk it up to some weird technology glitch, but I don't know. There was absolutely nothing opened on my laptop at all, and it was muted. I don't have schizophrenia, and I'm not crazy or anything. Like, I swear on my life this happened, and it was not a hallucination or something. I really wish I had a logical explanation for it, because because it would ease my mind. It really fucked me up pretty bad for a while. The night after it happened, I spent hours outside smoking cigarettes, staring at the garage from afar, terrified to go in and sleep. I still have regular nightmares and sleep paralysis of something being in there with me. Does anyone know how or why my laptop would suddenly start flashing glitchy symbols and a backwards demonic voice would start speaking through the muted speakers? That is the end of that creepy story. And it doesn't really look like anybody has any explanation for her computer glitching out like that. Let's see. But they do have advice for sleep paralysis. Yeah, I've never had sleep paralysis before, but it really sounds fucking terrifying, like you're in a horror movie. You hear the stories of, I think the one that stayed with me the most was sleep paralysis. Sometimes when you're having it, you feel like someone is sitting on your chest and you can't move. And there was like this story that it's actually a woman that's sitting on your chest, like this cool, like old woman that sits on your chest. I forgot what the reason was, but I thought that was a creepy story. But no, sleep paralysis is something that does happen. It happens to my brother all the time. Well, at least it used to. And he would say, like, he could see a shadow standing over him, or like hear like whispers in his ear and couldn't move, which is really creepy. I am grateful I've never had sleep paralysis. And if you have had sleep paralysis, I'm sorry. That just sucks. It sounds like it really sucks. This brush that I have is all like wonky. Do you hear that? It's like cheap. It's like it could break any moment. Maybe if I hold it right there. Okay, so this next story is called Stranger in My House. Before I get started, I'm gonna give you a little story time about what I did yesterday. Yesterday, I went to a self-defense class for women, and it was pretty fun. What they do is they teach you different moves to defend yourself against somebody who may be stronger than you, either a burglar or just somebody who approaches you on the street. And it was really, really informative. I really enjoyed it, and I would like to reiterate some of the things that I learned. So, I think they taught us like 5 or 6 moves that we can do, but I'm just gonna teach you 3. So, the first thing you can do if somebody approaches you and you don't have a weapon is you can put your hand like this, and you are gonna hit them with the heel of your hand. What you're gonna do is you are going to thrust upwards against their nose as hard as you can and go through their face. Hopefully you're gonna break their nose by doing that, but if not, it'll at least daze them and give you enough time to run away. Another move that they taught you is, they were very intense too. They were just like, your body is a weapon and you need to learn how to use it. So that was fun. So another one is you can actually break somebody's clavicle very easily. I think it only takes like 8 to 10 pounds, and then with some force, it can break your clavicle. So you're gonna do a fist with your thumb slightly tucked in, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna slam your fists down on their clavicle. So like right here on their shoulder, like right here, you're gonna slam down as hard as you can over and over, and then try and run. And once you break their position where they have you, they come up from behind. You can put your elbows into their ribs. Pretty well. And you won't feel much pain from it because there's not a lot of nerve endings on the point of your elbow. But they'll feel a lot of pain because it's a blunt, almost sharp object on your body that you can use as a weapon. So I just thought I would share that. They also taught us how to shoot a shotgun and a couple other guns, which was fun. And they also convinced me that I should get a gun. It was very intense. They showed us some videos of like women being attacked, and this one woman beat the shit out of this guy. She I don't even know if she was in jiu-jitsu or something, but she jumped up 4 feet and rammed her elbow into his face and just started wailing on him. It was amazing, and he was trying to steal her purse, but he did not succeed. It was so funny. Okay, enough. I will get into the creepy stories. Stranger in my house. While I was living and studying in the capital of my country, I had a small rented basement of a 1917 built house next to a nightclub. I was preparing to go to sleep quite early since I had class at 8 a.m. the next day. Right before I fell asleep, I remembered that I forgot to lock the door, but since the city I lived in was generally quite a safe place, and the only way to get to the entrance of my place was past a front gate, all around to the other side of the house, and then down some stairs, I didn't think much of it and proceeded to fall asleep. Skip forward to the middle of the night. I woke up and felt someone or something slowly pulling the blanket off of me. In a confused state, I extended my hand and felt a hairy male arm under my fingers. My first thought was, oh, it's probably just my drunk flatmate. But then I remembered that he's at his girlfriend's place on the other side of town. In pitch black, I jumped from my bed and rushed to the light switch. As I turned it on, I found a stranger around my age, standing in his underwear by my bed, with his underwear clearly wet from piss. Whoa, that's crazy. That is scary. That is so scary. My initial reaction was to stay calm, since I had no idea if this dude was violent or what was even going on in the first place. I calmly asked him, "What the fuck are you doing here?" I'm sorry, okay. I calmly asked him, "What the fuck are you doing here?" He was clearly very confused as well and took a sit on a recliner I had in my room. There we were, both in our underwear, him covered in piss, and I was on the border of pissing myself. He extended his hand and introduced himself to me. At that point, I said, "Okay, dude, get out of my house," and started escorting him to the hallway, where I find all his clothes and shoes on the floor. As I'm escorting him out, he goes into the bathroom and locks himself inside. I hear him turn on the shower and proceed to knock on the door, saying that he needs to leave right now or I'll call the police. A few minutes pass, and he steps out of the bathroom butt naked, with my flatmate's towel around his waist. He looks at me and says, "Did you see they've got a shower here?" At that point, I'm fuming. I tell him this is my house and he's a total stranger that broke into my place. Suddenly, an expression of complete fear appears on his face. "Oh my God, what have I done? Jesus Christ!" He starts exclaiming as he is very awkwardly trying to get dressed in the hallway. Then I managed to get him out of the house. I even called one of his friends from my phone to come pick him up at the club. Turns out he's from a completely other town and came to party to the capital. He got kicked out of the club for starting a fight and somehow managed to get into my place. To this day, I have no idea what he was on or how the hell he managed to find my apartment, as it is quite hidden from the street. Anyway, I apologize for the long post. I'm not even sure if this is the right place to post this, but I found it extremely creepy. Let's just say I never forgot to lock my door from that day. P.S. I did not sleep well for weeks afterwards. And that is the end of that story. Luckily, this person that broke into his house didn't seem to have any violent intentions, which is, he got lucky. But still very scary. Sounds like he handled it pretty well, though. He didn't call the police, but he managed to get the guy out of the apartment, so that's good. That could have ended so much worse. This next story is called The Man Who Followed Me Home and Tried to Enter My Apartment. So I moved from New Zealand to Germany 3 years ago now. I was working at a hotel in Munich as a bar manager while I have been learning the language. It's ridiculously complicated, especially if English is your first language. Anyway, I am a 27-year-old blonde, thin, punky-looking girl. It was a 2-minute walk from my hotel to the train station, and I had to catch the train to my hometown after I finished work most nights. It was common for me to get harassed at the train station or on the way to the station, even though it was only a 2-minute walk. It was extra horrible because I could not speak German very well. I once had a guy ask me to marry him for money, another one asking me why I don't speak his language because he wanted me to come home with him, another one called me a slut because I ignored him. The list goes on. Ew, this place sounds terrible. But the scariest time was actually in my hometown. I live 35 kilometers away from the city. I headed home on the train as usual. I got off the train and began walking around the corner to my apartment. This was around midnight on a Monday. I got to my apartment and unlocked my door, but as I was unlocking my door, someone tapped me on my shoulder. I turned around and saw a man behind me, quite short, Middle Eastern, a friendly enough looking guy. I was obviously shocked a bit, so my immediate response assumed he lived in the building, so I asked if I could help him with something. It was just so weird, so that was the first thing I said. He said in German, "I need your number." Again, I was shocked because I assumed he lived in the building and was locked out of his house or something. I was so naive. He began to tell me that he had followed me home from Munich and needed my number. I said no, and that I was married. My husband was literally inside the apartment. He followed that with, "That doesn't matter," and asked if he could come in. Disgusting. Honestly disgusting. I began to freak out and stated that I was going inside and bid him farewell. As I entered my apartment, he pushed me forward and tried to get inside my apartment. I turned around and slammed the door so hard in his face it brought tears to my eyes. Not the slamming, but you know what I mean. The creep continued to stand outside for a few minutes. I could see him through the peephole. By the time I told my husband, he was gone. I didn't even think of calling the police. I was too bewildered. The thing that scares me is that this situation could have been so much worse. I am quite fit and strong, but if I was someone smaller and stuff, it could have been really bad. If my husband wasn't there, his daughter lives here, I keep thinking of all these things that could have happened, and it still gives me nightmares. If I didn't shut the door in time, if I lived alone, all of these things. Now I carry pepper spray and a whistle everywhere I go. So to the creepy man who followed me 35 kilometers home and tried to get into my house, let's never meet again, please. What the fuck? People are fucking insane, honestly. It blows my mind. It always blows my mind when you hear stories about these disgusting fuckers who have no fucking shame. They don't respect anybody's boundaries. You just want to fucking break their nose. I'm glad this woman was able to shut the door in this man's face, and her husband was home too, so there was that kind of protection there as well, but that sounds really, really scary, and I'm glad she's okay. That's intense. That's an intense situation to be in. Okay, so this last story is called Weird Friend I Had 2 to 3 years ago. It reads as follows. Trigger warning for grooming and stalking. years ago, I met this girl through mutual friends. She seemed like amazing. She was so kind and eager to be friends with me. She'd give me presents and compliments. Too much almost. Now, in this friendship I was developing with her, she'd talk about kidnapping me and having me to herself. That's a big red flag, girl. That's a big red flag. Obviously, you tell a traumatized, naive 16-year-old that, she'll think it's a joke, which is exactly what I did. After a while, she started to get oddly sexual with me. I was in a very committed relationship at the time, too. She would ask if she could fill me up when we met because she didn't know what boobs felt like, or saying how her truck bed was perfect for sex under the stars in a field. Mind you, she's a year and 11 months older than me. I eventually moved to be with my friend group, unaware that she also lived there, but went to school with my friends. We were all friends with her, and they all have their sides of what happened that I won't recount, as it's their story to tell. Once I moved here, she'd try and come see me every day, even after she turned 18 and I was 16, almost 17. She even bought me 3 pairs of booty shorts for Christmas with the note, "Can't wait to see you in these. I picked the perfect colors, winky face." I had been uncomfortable with her advances from the start, and had even told her on multiple occasions that I was uncomfortable, but it did not stop her advances, even trying to manipulatively convince me to leave my partner at the time. Once I started to pull away emotionally from her, she chewed me out, threatening to kill herself or shoot up her school if I didn't want to be friends with her. Oh my god. Once New Year's rolled around, I couldn't handle the constant, at this point, harassment I was getting from her. I finally told my friends what was happening with her. They told me I was actively being groomed. The gifts, the compliments, the unwavering obsession with me, it made me sick. So me and my roommate finally decided to cut ties with her, blocking her on everything and having one of my parents tell her she was not welcome near me or the house again. That's right, you tell her. Or you have your mom tell her. She was pissed. She started to drive by my house or near my street almost every day after she got out of school, even at one point deciding to do a burnout very loudly at my friend's house because she knew I was at their house. She would ask my friends about me and ask if I was done ignoring her. When she found out I got told I was groomed by her, everything switched. She hated me, said I ruined her life, led her on, forced her to smoke weed. She even started saying I sent her nudes and started to sexually flirt with her first. All of those not true in any way. She was telling these and so many other things about me to complete strangers at her school too. She was so mad at me, even on my 17th birthday, tweeting that she wished I'd just die already. All her anger or anything she had said about me would come back to me, obviously, as she was actively talking to or engaging with my friends. It had been months since I had heard about her or anything she had said about me. I was finally content, but that paranoia I had was still strongly there and terrified me. I was going to a concert for one of my favorite bands, and I was even happier about it because they were playing in a city near me. I had tweeted about getting tickets and just how excited I was about it. Me and my roommate went to the concert, and we were having an amazing time during the openers. I went out to get a cup of water, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw her. She hated this band. She even bashed me for liking them so much. Knowing that, I brushed my worry off and went back into the concert venue. Once the openers left and the band started playing, me and my roommate were having such a good time. Then during the 3rd or 4th song, I turned around and saw her so close. It was so uncomfortable. My body threw me into a panic attack on instinct, and me and my best friend had to leave the concert immediately. It was horrifying. I'm still petrified to go to concerts in my state, honestly. I haven't heard anything about her or her whereabouts since then, besides hearing she got admitted into a mental hospital for saying some fucked up shit to a friend of hers. Sorry for such a long story. Thank you to anyone who read, and to that girl, I truly hope we never meet again. Yeah, sounds like she has some serious mental issues, and gosh, hopefully she doesn't hurt anybody in the future. She sounds like she was getting worse and worse as the years were going on. Hopefully she got help for that. I'm glad this person is okay. That is a scary situation to be in and very uncomfortable, I can imagine. Having to break it off with a once good friend who is now a crazy bitch. Yeah, something like that's happened to me before as well, but not quite so intense. Alright guys, so that is the end of these stories. What did you think? Were any of them creepy? Were any of them not creepy? I thought they were all pretty creepy. Very perfect for this Halloween theme. But in the end, I'm glad with the stories that I do read, they usually have a good ending where the person who is writing the story, the person who experienced the situation, comes out okay. So that's the silver lining of these stories, you know, they all end up surviving, and gives me some peace of mind to